all the members of the board are here. So, with all the members of the board who are able to attend tonight present, welcome everybody to the Norton Planning Board meeting of Tuesday, October 27th. Paul, have you confirmed that the media center is currently up and running?
Yes, you're live tonight, and we're also recording on Zoom, so.
Thank you very much. Just to restate what I'm sure we've heard 12.5 times since this whole COVID pandemic hit, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, imposing a strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting is being conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for members of the public and our parties with a right or permit to attend can be found on the Town of Norton's website. To participate in the meeting, you can join the meeting online via the Zoom link included in the agenda, or through the Zoom app using meeting ID 638-929-1060. You can also please email questions to the board ahead of the meeting or during the meeting. Simply send those to the town planner, Paul DiGiuseppe, whose email is posted on the town website. Meeting materials are also online on the link available on the posted agenda. Every effort is being made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time. In the event we are unable to do so despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of Norton website an audio video recording, transcript, or other record of the proceedings as soon as possible. So, with that out of the way, our general business in terms of, we don't have anything on it, I do not believe in terms of planning board business and policies, but we do have a pair of bills in the Dropbox. Has everybody had a chance to review these? These are bills which have already been signed by me, I believe, Paul.
Yes.
But they are here for the board's review. One is related to the town's master plan, and one is the Verizon bill. So unless anybody has anything in terms of questions or clarifications on these bills they would like to ask, the next item on the agenda would be the minutes of our last meeting of October 6th. Does anybody have anything on the bills, or are we good to move on to minutes?
Do we need motions on bills at this point, or is it just a review and approval?
They've already been signed, so it's just for review.
Okay.
Okay. So for the minutes of October 6th, has everybody had a chance to review those minutes? And does anybody have any questions, clarifications, or edits to pass along? Hearing no edits, I would be looking for a motion, I guess.
Motion to approve the minutes of October 6th.
Second.
Thank you, Owen, for the motion, and Steve for the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll go to the vote. Owen? Owen?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't hear you the first time if you had said it. Next on my lineup here is Scott.
Yes.
Julie?
I'll abstain. I wasn't at that meeting.
No, but I think we need to make some corrections then. You did join later, correct? Or not at all? No, you weren't.
No, I did not attend the meeting at all, the last meeting.
Okay, so we do need to, so pause the vote and we'll do a new motion in a second, but obviously the first line item in the minutes obviously needs to be corrected then, since Julie was not there to make a motion.
Love to say I was, but I wasn't.
I don't have my notes from that meeting with me, but it was probably with me. I could be wrong.
Okay. If we're not sure, I think maybe it makes sense just to pause these and we can check the record and update it for our next meeting, if that makes sense to everybody.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, sorry, your motion went for not on.
Okay.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is an A&R endorsement for 3 Lopes Drive and 176 South Washington Street. The applicant of John Carroll with Carroll Advertising. Paul, do you know if they were planning to attend this evening or not?
Well, I believe, Daniel, are you representing this?
Yes, Dan Merrick with Legacy Engineering. John Carroll is here with me tonight.
Thank you, Daniel. Would you be able just to give a short summary? All of the members should have the plan available to them in the Dropbox depicting parcels A, B, C, and D, but if you could just give a quick overview of what you're looking at those lot lines.
Would you like me to share my screen and pop it up here?
Sure, if you don't mind.
Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
So this is an A&R plan proposed for 176 South Washington Street. It's an existing commercial property, and Carroll Advertising is the applicant. I think you may recall that recently they appeared before you and you granted them a special permit to construct a billboard on the property at 3 Lopes Drive. The purpose of this A&R is to take this little wing of undeveloped land from 176 South Washington and carve it up into 2 unbuildable parcels. Parcel C, which will ultimately be conveyed to 3 Lopes Drive, and parcel D, which is 2,745 square feet, which we're going to prepare and submit a new special permit application to move the billboard that was just recently installed into that little parcel. So it's that much closer to Route 495. And that's it. And the remaining land is undisturbed. There's no improvements in this area associated with the commercial use at 176 South Washington.
Thank you, Daniel. I'll ask the members of the board if they have any questions. Before I do, Kevin, I believe you may have a double speaker echo going on, so if you're not, thank you, Kevin. Do any members of the board have any questions regarding the specific A&R lot lines? Again, under the understanding from the applicant that there will be additional discussion on this project as a whole coming in the future.
Can I have 2 questions? What is this property zone? Is this commercial or industrial?
It's zoned industrial.
Industrial. Now, what's the current lot lines that are existing now?
So if you're looking at the plan, you can see my little cursor here. It goes around like this, and it comes up like this, and then it cuts across, and it has this little tail right here. Then it comes all the way along 495, and then down and around here. This is a separate property. This is 3 Lopes Drive. So what we're looking to do is to take this little tail off of 176 South Washington Street and carve it off. And then the owners of 176 South Washington Street are going to sell that land to Carroll Advertising.
Okay, so we have frontage on that lot of only 130 feet.
Correct. That is, my understanding, that's pre-existing non-conforming. So the change in the lot configuration that we're proposing doesn't change the non-conformity at all. The frontage remains the same as it always has been.
Is that pre-existing the subdivision control law, or is it one of the carve-outs that we have in approving?
Yeah, I would have to go back. I mean, I went back and looked at the permitting history for this, and there's permitting back in 1985. The land that this sits on goes way back. I don't have that date off the top of my head. But it's my understanding that, yeah, that it was existing non-conforming frontage. And so, you know, the way we basically have extra land on this lot, and the proposed A&R doesn't affect the non-conformity at all.
Well, I guess my only concern is, the footnote says the purpose of the plan is to create those two non-buildable lots, but in reality, we're also creating that third lot, which is lot B itself, we're reestablishing it. And I just, it's fine as long as, you know, it predates, it predates. I'm just not sure how we just document that, so we're not just approving something. I mean, with your application, you didn't check off, you know, that lot, but you're actually creating that lot at this point. You're not just creating those two.
Well, we're taking the existing lot, which is non-conforming, and we're carving off an extra piece of undeveloped land from it. So yeah, I mean, we're redefining the original lot. That's correct.
So the note says the purpose of the plan is only creating those two. I guess, I don't really have a problem with where you want to go, I just want to just document how you're going to get there.
Okay.
And because the way you're telling me, it sounds like you're creating three new lots, carving two out from what's existing, which is okay. And then as long as the other two are unbuildable, and again, as long as this other lot, I'm assuming is, predates the subdivision, so it qualifies. And as long as there's somewhere we can document that, that's fine. And I go back to Paul, somebody will do that. And the other thing was also the notation that we typically have that we're not certifying to any compliance with any zoning requirements. The determination of compliance with zoning requirements has been made as.
That's something that could be added if you want as part of the endorsement. I don't know how you guys are handling the endorsement of the plan, but that's a notation that could be added at the time of endorsement.
We actually had done that recently where we caught that, and the applicant, after it was approved at the planning board meeting, planning board meeting, made a modification. And Daniel, right now with COVID, the planning board did earlier this year authorize the chair to sign just as a sole signature on behalf of the board. So you could, you know, the board will have to direct you, but we did that recently where the applicant came in with the Mylar, an updated Mylar, and a couple copies.
Yeah, we could have an updated Mylar with that notation added to it in a day or two if you want to make that a condition of your vote.
Okay, and is there some way we can actually update your application to, if you're going to be including if you're including, I can't say, is it B? It's small. Is that possible?
The big one? The big one is B.
B. A is existing now, as it is?
Correct.
But that's fine. So we're really creating, unless you just, well, I guess you have to create A, don't you? In some form, where you're not asking us to.
Well, A is the existing boundaries of the land. So what we do when we chop it up is, you know, we're creating unbuildable parcel D and unbuildable parcel C, and then what's left is parcel B. It's the remainder of the land.
Yeah, I think that the boxes within each lot which detail the square footage before and after transfer are helpful for B anyway. Do any other members of the board have any questions or comments regarding the A&R?
Hey, Tim, this is Kevin. You're not hearing an echo, are you, right now?
No, I am not. Now I am.
All right, someone else talk, sorry about that. So, I noticed on the application, the reason plan does not constitute a subdivision and qualifies for A&R. The only box checked off was other reason, see Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81C. So I didn't know what that was, so I just did a search on it. It may have already been explained in the meeting so far, but what I found was a section of Mass General Law that doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about. It has to do with studies and reports of boards acting as a park for park commissioners. But maybe I found it incorrectly through the search. Maybe the applicant can explain what that other reason is, if he hasn't already.
Well, the other reason is, this site doesn't fit the criteria listed because it's non-conforming, it's pre-existing non-conforming. So the frontage is shy of the current requirement. So the A&R, basically, the purpose of the A&R is to create two unbuildable parcels, which is something that's permissible under the subdivision control law. And the remaining land has the requisite area, parcel B, and the original frontage that was the pre-existing non-conforming frontage of the land on South Washington Street. So the change to the size of the parcel does not affect the non-conforming. So that's, I guess, the explanation.
I think what Kevin was referring to was just that he wasn't sure if the notation under the Mass General Law notation was incorrect.
Well, we had checked off the only option that we had on the application form. But I have to look back, but I believe I indicated in the application that, the law was pre-existing non-conforming with respect to frontage and that we weren't affecting that with this change in lot boundaries.
Right. Yeah. Does any other member of the board have any questions or comments for the applicant? Okay, hearing none. Or do you feel like, I think I agree with you, maybe we should have that notation just about that we're not certifying that in regards to zoning, just to make everything clear in that respect.
Yeah.
Paul, if there's specific wording that we've had on recent applications, would you be able to provide that to Daniel?
Yes, I have it.
Okay.
I'll send it to Daniel.
Okay. And
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question. This is Scott.
sure, Scott.
Just to validate, who's this being processed on behalf of? What's the address again? Or which lot?
It's 176 South Washington Street.
Okay, thank you.
The reason Three Oaks Drive is shown on the plan, it's the boundaries of Three Oaks Drive is not being changed, it's to illustrate the purpose of the A&R. And then the notations indicate that parcel C may be combined with parcel A, but the subdivision itself, the division of the land is at 176 South Washington.
Thanks for the clarification. I just want to confirm the cadence of the parcel labeling. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else has anything for the board? I guess I would be looking for a motion. Dan, I'm going to stop your screen share here.
Oh, sure, I can undo that.
Okay. Okay. Still looking for a motion regarding this filing.
Motion to endorse with the note as addressed in the dialogue that Paul will provide to the applicant.
Thank you, Julie.
You beat me, Julie, I'll second.
Thank you, Julie, for motioning and Steve for the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Orin?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yeah.
And I will vote yes. Thank you.
Members of the board, appreciate your time on this.
Thank you. We'll be hearing from you again in the near future.
Yes. Take care. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Okay. The next item on the board's agenda is a continuation of special permit 494, which has been continued a number of times. The applicant is seeking an additional continuance to our next meeting of November 10th. But prior to acting on that, Paul, did you want to give just a short summary of the response from town council regarding the bylaws surrounding this property?
I'm not sure I could do it justice by stating it in a short fashion, but I think just jumping right to the, right to the point of it, the way I read it is that you do have the option of reviewing this. The duplex and common driveway is a special permit, but I'll make a point that she couldn't find any direct case law to that point. And there are, we have a poorly worded bylaw. Well, the whole thing is, but this particular section, it didn't distinguish what we meant as permitted. So, she ultimately, I think, just came to the conclusion that you could move forward on it, but it wasn't as definitive as she normally does because it's just these other, those other issues that are there. So,
Okay. So in the opinion of town council, we can continue to proceed reviewing this from a permitting standpoint.
you have that option,
We have the ability to do so.
right?
So, do we want to make any further points about that? Or are we prepared to act on the applicant's request for a continuance?
Just one question. Paul, does she recommend that we alert the applicant to that inquiry itself? Let them know that that was some concern that we had raised, without indicating, we're still going to do it.
She did not weigh in on that. I mean, you can, if you wanted, if the board wants to direct me to do so, I can ask them, put them on notice that this is something that they will be that the board will be looking at. It's up to the board.
Yeah. I don't think it is any, I think generally in favor of open communication where it makes sense. And I think that the special permit itself is discretionary, so I think that it's not a negative signal in any way to them, in my opinion. Just something that we uncovered and we are aware.
Has part of this delay gone to they're working with the conservation, or is it something else that's been holding it up?
It's my understanding, what they've communicated to me is it's primarily updating their drainage. They had to switch consultants, and what I've heard now is the consultant has been very busy and hadn't been able to get to this.
Do you know, have they filed with conservation?
They have. I don't know the latest on it, but I don't think it's gone. I don't know. I won't say that. I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't been updated on any changes with it though, but I'll ask the conservation director though.
Okay, because they're going to be pretty heavily involved in this project, I guess. I mean,
But if they haven't updated the drainage, then my guess is they haven't moved forward with conservation, but I'll get the latest and email it to you, to the board.
Thank you, Paul.
I'll move to continue to November 12th.
Thank you, Steve, for the motion.
This is Scott, I will second.
Thank you, Scott, for the second. Is there any further discussion?
Chair, I believe it's November 10th.
Yes, to November 10th.
I meant to say 10th.
Confirmed on the second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion regarding this special permit? Hearing none, I will go to the vote of the members. Orin?
yes,
Scott?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Steve?
Yeah.
And Kevin?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Special permit 484 is continued to November 10th. The final two items on the agenda this evening are a couple of discussion points. Paul, if you want to do a quick update on the town master plan.
Okay, I just want to do just a short presentation. This just helps me more keep my notes in line, but yeah, so as you know, for about the last year, we've been working on the master plan. And recently we had, well, let me back up real quick.
Paul, is this in Dropbox?
No,
Okay.
if you wanted to be, I didn't, I mean, this is more for discussion points. There's,
It would be helpful just to, we can let Joe know that he can review it at his convenience as well.
okay.
Didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, that's fine. I got off on a bad note anyway, so. So anyway, I just want to update you on the status of the plan and answer any questions that you have. I want to just also start to lay the roadmap out for the direction this plan is, where it's going, which includes the role of the planning board, which is pretty important here. And then also get a sense of when we can actually get the consultants here with you. I was hoping the consultant team could be here tonight. They had some conflicts and couldn't make it. They did tell me they could be here for your meeting on the 10th if that's the direction you want to go, so they can fill in more. I don't have any substance of the plan here tonight. Just really wanted to go more of an overview where we're at. And as some of you, well, you all know, and some of you attended a recent workshop we had on September 30th that focused on open space and recreation and natural and cultural resources. And what we're really seeking to do is get feedback from the public about how to enhance these and where we can enhance these. And so now with everything being virtual, our consultant team from Serpent did a great job of not only doing I think a really good job with the presentation, but then also they put surveys and interactive maps online for 2 weeks for people to complete. And that's a process that we've been doing throughout, and that's really going to be, that's a very helpful thing to get feedback from folks in terms of context and then where it would be identified, where these benefits and improvements and changes should be and areas to preserve. We did receive quite a bit of information. It's not ready yet from this workshop. The team is still putting it together. But again, we can come back at a later time and give you more of the meat of this. So we're actually very close to completing this. We've done land use and housing and economic development and, again, natural resources and open space. In the spring, we're going to plan on doing another virtual event that deals with infrastructure and services as well as mobility. And that'll be the last of the public hearings for us to gather information from the public. After that point, you will be getting involved with seeing the drafts as they get developed. One thing I want to point out about this plan that I've been, that we've had a lot of discussions on between myself and the consultant team is this plan is going to have an implementation section, and it's going to lay out a work plan. We have to still figure out what that looks like, but typically what you would do is have an action area, some general program, and then you would assign a team to it, and then you would identify action steps that they would take, timeframes by which things will need to be done. I'm a big fan of that. We did this in Austin, and we had a lot of success with it because people had a game plan to work with. One of the challenges when you just do a policy plan or don't lay out an action plan is you really run the risk of a plan just sitting on the shelf collecting dust, and that's not what we want. We want a plan that once it's adopted, we can run it, we can work it, and whoever are the teams assigned to it will make those things go. And so it's going to be real critical to identify what those top priorities are for us to focus on, and then identify the partners who will be involved with it. And one thing we should point out too, implementation of a master plan can take the form of a few different things. It could be updating our bylaw to align better with this new plan. It can affect our budget. It can, affect our capital investments. It can also affect who we end up partnering with. So there's some major topic areas that can change and should change when this plan is adopted. If those changes don't happen, we don't have a successful plan. It's going to be really important to make sure we get the details right in the master plan itself, but really critical that we have the willpower to drive and the roadmap to drive us forward. That's why, we were one of the reasons, and we'll talk about this in the next agenda item, but one of the reasons we wanted to get the village center zoning done was we had the plan adopted in June of last year. We didn't want to let it sit, so we got it as quickly as we were able to get it. That shows that plan isn't sitting on a shelf. We had a big step accomplished last week with it, and that's what we want to do here. So your role, again, is really crucial. In the end, you all have the ability to adopt it, or you have the ability to say, we will prefer this be adopted at a town meeting. So at some point, we'll have to have that conversation, what you plan on doing. But in the meanwhile, you will be seeing at least one draft or more as you decide and you direct us to it. This really has to have your fingerprints all over it. We want to keep you heavily involved with it. Again, we could get the team here on the 10th if that's what you would like to do, and then we can start talking more about the specifics. I want to just let you know that they have done a great job of developing the project webpage, which has a lot of information on it, from existing conditions to the results of the first 2 workshops, and then the 3rd workshop that just completed. They will have the results of that up there too in a short time. So all you need to do is Google Norton Master Plan, and you'll find it. And it's hosted by Serpid. So, and there's, as you can see from this screenshot, there's a lot. There's a lot that you can find up there. So that concludes my presentation. So if you have any comments or questions.
With the implementation teams, I forget the term that you used, how does that tie in with the charter commission and everything else that's happening in town?
Well, they're not, they're not dependent on each other, because this could even be a nonprofit that could implement. We could, if there were certain experts in the, that are residents, we could, work with them. So, it needs to be, or, individuals or organizations that can't take the steps. So it's possible with the Charter Commission that changes could come in and affect it. But oftentimes these plans are implemented by, some of these will be implemented by the conservation director or her and another group of environmentalists and whatnot. So we just have to see what the priorities are and then start figuring that out and then determine, okay, what role does planning board have with this or the select board?
Paul, in going through this process, is there any look back into what the current latest master plan was like and what was accomplished or wasn't? Did they do any comparison to what we had or we have now?
We haven't done an assessment of it. They have it. We did. That was provided. That's one of the documents to show. But we didn't do a full-on assessment of that plan.
Is that somewhere accessible to us?
Yeah. And in fact, you will find it on Serpent's website, but we have it too.
Okay.
But so that'll be factored in. But that plan was done in 1998, and this is we say it's an update of the plan. It's really a new plan. The perspective planning has changed a lot since the 90s, where it was much more about policy back then, and now it's much more about implementation, moving it forward, and topic areas like sustainability and now equity are more prominent than back then.
Yeah. No, I'm really curious to see what was proposed back then and where it's come from, where it was.
Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind too is again, when you look at the results from the exercises, you'll probably see some overlap what people were looking for, because ultimately with some of the mapping exercises, and you've been to all of them, you'll see that we did some mapping exercises, essentially asking, what would you like to see remain the same or maintained, and where would you like to see change? That, in a way, becomes a policy, too, because we would look at that and look and determine, do we need to make zoning changes in certain areas? But we haven't, and it really wouldn't be worthwhile for us to compare back to that old plan, and we just really wanted to take a fresh look at it and get. Yeah.
I mean, it might be good just to have that as a baseline, thinking ahead 12 months or so. If this is something that is presented before a town meeting, I'm a big follower of the KISS method of presenting, keep it simple, stupid, with me being the stupid one.
You were highly complimented.
So simple bullet points of this is what is new in this version of the plan for people to digest before they get bogged down in all of the text. I think that would be at least something to think about as we kind of lay the groundwork for that. But no, I think other than the Zero Variety Street, is there anything else scheduled on the agenda for the 10th?
I don't. We might have, Nicole, we might have the special permit for Blue Star we have an application in that for under phase 1, where you recall we had 3 commercial buildings. They are proposing to eliminate building 3, the commercial building, because they have a tenant for building 4 who needs additional parking. So that one,
One of the
that's either on the 10th. That's either on the 10th or the 17th. It's probably the 17th, as I'm trying to do quick math in my head.
The 17th, Paul.
Okay.
Okay.
17th.
So if that's on the 17th, I think having the master plan stakeholders at the 10th probably would make the most sense. Unless anybody has any strong objections to hearing my thoughts in a few weeks.
Yeah, in my experience, it's really helpful to have the consultant team presenting to the board.
Could you ask them if there's certain material they would like us to review in advance of them coming to us that would be helpful? So we can hone in on what they might be discussing. If there's certain specifics that they'd like to just bring to our attention so we can help focus in on those questions.
Yeah, I would say part of that will be the, if you go to the website and you look at the, the results from the public events. It's real easy they did a great job. It's simple to look at. It's actually quite powerful. That would be a great starting point because there again, you'll see where people talk about where they'd like to see changes such as new sidewalks or improved sidewalks or, a coffee bar or something like that, as well as areas to preserve or maintain. So I'll coordinate with the project manager and we'll get something for you.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul. And the final item on the agenda is just a review of town meeting. For those of you who weren't able to attend, the two articles around the village center core were approved, which is great. The other article about signs for zoning bylaws did not move forward. I think that's something that we can evaluate how we look at down the road. But having it minimum, Paul, if anybody gives you any guff about having to pay for signs when you put them put through the bills, then you can tell them I tried.
We did.
One of them was just was sent back to committee. What happened?
The finance committee did not move it, so I did, and it was voted down. The finance committee spoke less about the fact of removing signs, but more that they would feel more comfortable. The impression I got was if there was a more formalized communication plan that they could see, even though we're kind of doing an all hands, all avenues approach, not having a documented kind of like, this is the plan for sharing information about zoning bylaws, I think is what kind of stuck out to them. And I understood that. But,
And
Well, that's feedback that they gave at the meeting, is that true? Or do we hear it beforehand?
they said that at the meeting, yes.
Okay.
At previous FinCom meetings, there was just a concern. A number of the members spoke and said the only way they know about what's going on is signs in the ground. So they felt that removing the sign as a requirement would be less transparent, and that a lot of people don't, use technology for it. And I understand that. So, we have broadened our outreach, and we'll continue to do so. In fact, with zoning cases, we meet the minimum for mail-outs to abutters to 300 feet. I think it would be worthwhile to consider going up to 500 feet, going above the statute for it. But, again, we've used technology more. We're using the media center more for notifications. We'll just, we'll use it, and maybe as the chair mentioned, maybe we just examine the 3-week requirement, and that requirement that talks about essentially an engineered drawn map on the sign itself. I mean, those are the two things that if we were able to fix that, then,
Well, just for clarity though, there's no restriction in us using more technology to communicate better, even though we may have to use more archaic approaches in parallel.
No, we're not restricted by it. The state law on
We
this,
keep using signs, and we keep using what modern technology allows us to do, and the old sign will just be there as a cost. Okay.
yeah, exactly. And again, we're trying to go beyond that, but it is technology based. So if you don't use the internet and don't watch TV, it's going to be or get emails. Well, there are a lot of people out there like that, and so we'll just continue to work with it, but we want to be more transparent. That was the whole idea.
Yeah, I mean, if we, in the future, we look at the signs as something, if we wanted to keep it, look at adjusting the timelines, or even just adjusting the content of the signs. If people are using this, nobody's going to pull over on the sign and try and read the actual map. Having a sign, well, shouldn't. Something, zoning bylaw amendment at town meeting, please see, something like that. We can look at that in the future, since I know we can't bring the article back for a couple of years, I don't think. But that's okay. We move on, and that's that.
And Chair, do you want to, were you mentioning marijuana?
Oh, and yes, and the marijuana articles also passed town meeting, as well as, this isn't really a planning board thing, but the two articles surrounding the initial exploration of the new locations for the town hall and the senior center also moved forward. I won't give any more details on those, because that's not really our purview, but there was a little bit of discussion on all of that.
How many people had worked at the town meeting of the attendance?
I was ballparking 150 or so.
Yeah. I don't know what the full final number was, but yeah, it seems like 150.
Now, was there a voting amendment? Did that come up? Was something about-
There was some definition additions, I believe,
Okay.
defining different types of boats and
Okay.
saying you can't drive them when you're intoxicated and those kind of things.
Okay, thanks.
I don't remember all the wording involved, but that's the one sentence summary of what I recall from it. Does anybody else have anything else further they'd like to discuss at this evening's meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will go to the members for a vote. Orin?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.